For over half a century, children have been captivated by movie monsters. These horrific characters have haunted many young nightmares. Today's movie fans are equally enthralled by cinematic monsters and by the makeup effects wizards who bring these creatures to life.
Every day is a bad hair day.
With inventive use of new materials and mechanics, these artists and technicians are creating characters that are increasingly more frightening and bizarre.
Rolling.
Today, we'll go behind the mask with the comedy adventure Cabin Boy to see how flesh and blood actors are transformed into make-believe beings.
Cut.
And Academy Award-winning makeup artist Rick Baker reveals the secrets of famous movie monsters. Welcome to the highly inventive field of special makeup effects, where you'll meet creature and creator on Movie Magic. The function of makeup has remained constant throughout history, to assist an actor in the creation of a character. Makeup effects include everything from the addition of a cut, burn, or scar, to the transformation of a man into an unrecognizable form. When a script calls for an alien to live among Earthmen, or dead men to walk amongst the living, the makeup effects artists are called to center stage. For the fantasy comedy film Cabin Boy, producers Tim Burton, Denise Denovi, and director Adam Resnick must create a world populated with strange characters. Cabin Boy tells the story of a young man who travels the high seas with a group of crusty old fishermen.
On their voyage at sea, there are a lot of episodes where they meet some very amazing characters. He meets a half man, half shark underneath the water named Chalky, played by Russ Tamblyn. And the masthead on the ship, played by Ricky Lake, actually comes to life. And he learns the ways of love from Callie, played by Ann Magnuson, who lives on an island and has 8 arms or 10 arms, a lot of arms.
I wanted something that was very stylized and a little bit older looking. Tony had some good ideas, and he was completely in sync with what I wanted to do.
Innovative makeup effects artist Tony Gardner has established a reputation for creating fantastic, sometimes frightening characters for such films as Hocus Pocus, Army of Darkness, and Darkman. Gardner's Alterian Studios is a 10,000 square foot makeup effects lab. This facility specializes in all aspects of makeup effects, from character makeup to animatronic figures and puppets.
We seem to excel at getting the shows with major technical challenges. But I think we excel at characters and finding a balance and bringing enough fantasy into reality to the point where you buy it as a character as opposed to just, this is a makeup effect. We're able to create whole characters out of what we do.
Once the character designs are approved, the effects team makes life casts of all the actors playing the various characters. Russ Tamblyn will have his body cast for a sharkskin suit, and Ricky Lake will have her head and body cast to play the wooden figurehead. Designer Eric Fiedler will make a cast of this actor's head so that the makeup can be sculpted onto the exact shape of the actor's face.
He's going to be one of the clouds, or the cloud character. So we're going to make a life cast of his head and going to sculpt the cloud features onto his face and around his face. So if you can picture his face as the face portion, and then out here a big puffy cloud, that's what will be going on. So we're going to sculpt all that, make it out of foam, and then put a little headgear on, kind of like a Las Vegas showgirl. Have a headdress on, and the makeup will be out there, and his face will be blended into it. Putting a ball cap on him to protect his hairs from the material we do the life casting with.
A layer of Vaseline is applied to the eyebrows and around the cap to prevent the casting material from sticking. Next, Eric mixes up a batch of alginate.
Alginate, that's the same stuff the dentist puts in your mouth when he wants to take an impression of your teeth. Made out of kelp. Relax. How's that? It's actually good, huh? Nice warm day like today. Close your eyes. All smooths right out. It's amazing stuff. Takes great detail. This takes about 5 minutes. You get the whole thing done in about 14.5 minutes.
A wrapping of plaster bandages provides support for the alginate cast.
Now I'm putting on the dividing line of the hard matrix or the plaster bandage. So we do a front half and a back half. As this stuff starts to go off, it starts to heat up. So we tell the talent, don't worry, it's gonna get warm. It's like a relaxing facial sauna.
After about 4 minutes, the plaster has hardened and the two halves can be removed.
And Tom will lead forward and his ears will fold under. And he'll help catch it if he's got a problem. You have to kind of work it off here a little. Got it? There we go. Go ahead. Go ahead and pull. I'm gonna slip it in there. Pull straight out. There you go. And
Once the negative of Tom's head is finished, the next step is to fill the mold which will form the life cast.
this is Ultracal. It's a very hard type of plaster. There's 3 parts of this. There's this is called a face coat, a splash coat, also it's called. Then after that is the hemp coat. We add hemp or sisal fiber, which is a material that we use to give it strength. It's like straw. Also helps it to make it lighter. And then we put a finish coat on there, making it nice and smooth. Molds in minutes. This will set for 30 minutes. It'll start to heat up. That'll make it harden up. That's it. We'll pop it. Now it's time for the moment of truth. And there it is.
A perfect likeness. This life cast will be the foundation for a sculpture that will put the actor on cloud 9.
Help your eyes look up.
And after a quick touch-up, the cloud man is set to breeze through his scene.
Okay, lean back and blow. That's perfect. Okay.
That was nice. That was really nice.
Good.
For many movie fans, Lon Chaney was the master of screen horror. Known as the man with 1,000 faces, Chaney was a genius in the art of makeup. His 1923 version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of the most extraordinary characters ever created for motion pictures.
He had this wonderful ability that no matter how horrific or how repulsive his character could be, he could get the audience's sympathy. People like to believe the extraordinary. People like to think for the Hunchback he wore a 70-pound rubber hump. In actuality, it was 20 pounds and it was made out of plaster of Paris.
The Phantom of the Opera, made in 1925, is one of Chaney's most admired films. He plays Eric, the disfigured mad organist who haunts the Paris Opera House. When Chaney read the Gaston Leroux novel, it described Eric's face as that of a skull with the flesh wasted away.
He would glue spirit gum, which was an adhesive, on his nose, and then he'd place the little strip of fish skin, which is a thin, transparent piece of skin that comes from the stomach lining of fish, and he'd pull the nose up to the way he wanted it, and then ran the rest of the piece of fish skin up into the forehead, painting it down with spirit gum, and that's how he accomplished the up-tilting of the nose.
Because his elaborate makeup removed all acting subtleties, Chaney had to employ his body to eloquent effect. Chaney's famous makeup box was the forerunner of the makeup departments of the major studios. By the 1930s, these makeup departments were operating as daytime glamour factories. But at night, in Universal's makeup lab, artist Jack Pierce worked with Boris Karloff, perfecting the face that would influence future generations of makeup artists.
My first introduction to Frankenstein's monster actually was in a monster magazine. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how you could make someone's head square.
A two-time Oscar winner for his extraordinary work on An American Werewolf in London and Harry and the Hendersons, Rick Baker's special effects makeups are inspired by his early fascination with classic movie monsters.
Early on, I thought it was Boris Karloff that did his own makeup, until I read in Famous Monsters of Filmland that this guy by the name of Jack Pierce did the makeup. From the research that I've done and knowing what makeup techniques were at the time, I believe most of it was done with a buildup of cotton and collodion. Collodion is this kind of liquid plastic type material. I really pity poor Boris, who had to go through this makeup every day. First day, I think he put some spirit gum on his brow, stuck some cotton onto it, painted on a layer of this collodion, put a little bit more cotton, a little more collodion. So it was laboriously building up layer at a time to create this brow. But it took hours to do. I've read 8 hours, I've read 6 hours. I couldn't believe either one of them. It's a long process. And to be sitting in a makeup chair that long, to have some joker painting, plastic on your face isn't really a lot of fun. I spoke to some older makeup artists that knew Jack Pierce, and they said that Boris, on occasion, would actually wear the makeup home rather than going through the laborious procedure the next day. He actually would go home, sleep, between a couple of books and try not to roll around on his face, and then come in the morning, and then Jack would have to do a certain amount of repair to the makeup, but it was less work than starting the whole process again. At a very early age, I was fascinated by monsters. I would watch monster movies on TV whenever they would come on, and just decided that would be a really cool thing to do, is make a monster.
At age 18, Rick Baker became the protege of Dick Smith, the creator of the unforgettable makeup effects in such landmark films as Amadeus, Little Big Man, and The Exorcist. With Dick's encouragement, Rick honed his skills and then went on to train a new generation of makeup artists, including Tony Gardner.
With Rick, I had the opportunity to do a lot. I came in as the runner, and you sweep the floors, take out the trash, that kind of stuff. And as you show you can handle more responsibility, you were given more.
In 1988, Tony Gardner formed Alterian Studios to continue the tradition of makeup effects pioneered by Lon Chaney.
Terminator is an insect.
But the materials and techniques have constantly improved. Foam rubber, first developed in 1939, allows artists to form-fit makeup to the actor's face. This foam appliance is detailed enough to look realistic in close-ups, and at the same time, eliminate the mounds of putties and cotton used by Jack Pierce to build up Boris Karloff's facial features. Even though methods have improved, the makeup effects for Cabin Boy are as labor-intensive as any previously created. In order to create new facial and body features, artists use plastine clay to sculpt character pieces onto the actor's life cast. These character pieces are called appliances. For Ricky Lake's figurehead character, Tony works with sculptor Mike Smithson. The design of the figurehead was modeled after those crafted for old English sailing ships. Careful detailing creates a weathered wood effect with a deep grain pattern. Once the design is sculpted, a mold is made of the clay appliance. This process is similar to that used for the life cast. After the plaster dries, the mold is separated from the life cast. The clay is removed, and the cavity that remains is ready to be injected with foam latex. After the molds are cleaned, foam technician John Calpin prepares the foam latex.
I'm getting ready to measure out some foam latex and whip it up, and then we'll inject it, almost like baking bread. You just pour everything into a gigantic bowl and whip it up in a mixer. When you whip it higher, you whip more air into it, makes it a softer foam. The less you whip it, the more dense it becomes.
The foam is injected into the appliance mold until it begins to seep out of small channels. When the channels are filled, the appliance should be free of any voids. The mold is baked in an oven for about 5 hours at 350 degrees. Once the appliance is removed from its mold, it is cleaned of excess latex and primed for painting. The foam rubber looks and feels like human skin. These appliances even have pores that allow the actors to perspire through the appliances rather than underneath them. Finally, after weeks of preparation, the character pieces are ready to be attached to the actors. Actress Ricki Lake arrives several hours before the rest of the crew for her makeup application. A medical adhesive called Prozaid is brushed onto the actress's face.
What's that?
It's boric acid.
Dissolve your nose so you can get a flatter
Clearasil.
wood texture.
Oh, that's so it sticks, right?
Listen, you.
The nose is glued first. Then the cheeks. As the mask is glued to Ricky's face, it becomes a second skin.
Now, when am I going to be able to move my face?
You can move right now if you want.
It feels restricted.
Oh, it'll work in.
The most important work is the blending of the edges of the makeup with the actress's skin. The seams must be perfect to avoid detection.
It scared me.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of building ridges over the blending edge so it kind of looks like the wood grain. It kind of helps blend into her skin.
It definitely helps looking differently and taking on a different appearance. Definitely helps when you're creating a character, especially one like this. And they kept telling me when I was off the part, they said, there's a lot of special effects makeup involved. It is unbelievable the process that goes on before you do, one day.
And then we can actually do a little more of the style at the time was a little like 2 rounds.
Oh, I gotcha.
There was a depression.
Kind of like that
in the
Veronica
center.
Lake thing?
Yeah, there's a depression.
After final touches, the actress is ready for her scenes. The camera rolls as soon as everyone is in place. Ricky's position is uncomfortable, and she will tire quickly.
Action!
Ricky. Pat. Great, okay. Great, Ricky, okay.
After Ricky works through a full day of shooting, Tony Gardner and his crew must then remove the actress's makeup. When the makeup effects are as elaborate as the figurehead character, this process can take several additional hours. But for the Alterian team, the figurehead is only one of several characters they are responsible for. Here, actor Russ Tamlin is being made up with another foam latex appliance to create his Sharkman character. Brian Pennicus has been given this task.
This is a surgical adhesive that Dow Corning makes.
Since the dawn of theater, actors have used color to create character makeup. And now, color is the final step in creating these makeup effects. The basic foam appliance has texture, but needs color and shading to complete the illusion.
For the makeup colors, we use a standard palette, but that offers 6 or 7 blues and a black and a white. Well, Brian did a test paint job on the little rectangle to determine the patterns and the basic colors. And we'll gradually work our way from this prosthetic adhesive paint to regular makeup as we work our way forward over the body.
Now I have to go in and break up all the flatness of the gray. And we've got to break up the edge here so that it dissolves more into his own skin.
Once you get all this gear on and start looking at yourself in the mirror, it's such inspiration. You've got to fin them up there. A lot of times people, you say, oh, I was in that film, and they'll say, oh, who were you in it? And you have to kind of explain, well, I was the guy, or the lawyer, or the this, or the that. You say I was the shark man. A little bit wider.
Make this match the point.
Just kind of stands out. Do I look normal again? I mean, who would think? I'm just a normal, average actor with a robe.
Finally, Russ is ready for the camera. In this scene, the cabin boy has been thrown overboard, and he sinks to the bottom of the ocean. The shark man swims to the rescue before the cabin boy drowns.
I approach the makeup effects more as characters, as opposed to just a makeup effect. You have to figure out the character and how to make the character work.
The continuing demand for new characters and greater realism presents makeup artists with challenging problems. They respond with confidence by inventing new techniques and materials and creative ways of using them.
It's almost like presenting a magic trick. It's what's all the dressing that fits around the actual effect itself to make it work and make you believe what you're seeing.
The credit belongs to makeup artists with talent and technology who create memorable screen characters that could never have existed without movie magic.